Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome once again to the world of V-Gaming Junkie News. This is the month of thrills, and the news station has changed accordingly. The Dross saw the cursed VHS a week ago, so there's nothing but pure gaming-related meatiness. It's all about the electronic good stuff as we dive deep in all that's new in the various interactive virtual worlds. So Blizzard, or Activision Blizzard as they prefer to be called, settled for $18 million. In the discrimination and harassment case, they've opted to settle in order to, and I quote, compensate and make amends to eligible claimants. It's always interesting when a company tries to cheerlead how virtuous they are and then come to find out they're the ones with the most skeletons in their closet. That's not to say it's uncommon, if anything it's overly compensating. Either way, Activision Blizzard promises to do better to help curb that kind of culture in the future. Hopefully they actually do something beyond just censoring references to developers in their video games. It'd sure be nice to see them do something of actual substance for a change. So stop me if you've heard this one before. A remaster / remake / reimagining has censored its content for the modern era. Yep, the latest one to get hit is oddly enough Resident Evil 4. The VR version seems to be censoring dialogue that was in the original game. Luis referring to Ashley Graham's ballistics has been removed. This also affects the achievement referencing the same thing. Leon asking Ingrid for her phone number is oddly also removed. I guess asking someone for their phone number is now bad. Leon referring to no sex discrimination is now also changed to no one is safe. This all just seems completely unnecessary in a game that's all about ultra-violence, but hey. Proving you're the most virtuous with the bare minimum effort is the 411 around here. So Coca-Cola made a laughably tone-deaf commercial about gaming. It depicts an esports competition where after experiencing some sugary sweet Coca-Cola, apparently all the contestants just quit virtually fighting each other. Because that makes a whole lot of sense, doesn't it? Imagine if they made a commercial where some football players drank some cola and then instead of competing they just refused to play. Yeah, that's how silly this is. Now I get that people could show better sportsmanship a lot of the time, and if they were trash-talking each other and then after drinking Coca-Cola they said things like good game, at least that would make sense. Refusing to compete, though, that kind of defeats the whole point behind an esports competition. Kinda sends the message that the Coca-Cola company is anti-video game violence, which never works out well at all. As expected, of course, it was downvoted into oblivion. Coca-Cola may have stopped one form of virtual beatdown, but it looks like the video itself still got one on a meta level. This is a bit of old news by now, but you know how 2-week gaps work. Chris Pratt is Mario in the upcoming movie. Well, I can get people to think that Charles Martinet should have voiced him, since he's pretty much voiced Mario since the old MS-DOS days. A lot of people's complaints are unfounded. John Leguizamo straight up complained about the skin color of the cast, as if Mario isn't a Japanese game about Italians. Let's be real here, he's just salty that he wasn't brought in to play Luigi, and he's just using this as an excuse. But yeah, there's been a crusade against Chris Pratt for not playing into their political beliefs hard enough, and it's honestly ridiculous. Even other Hollywood actors have defended them, and they aren't exactly the types to swing that way politically themselves. There are legitimate reasons to criticize the choice. The man's skin color and politics shouldn't have to be among them. Speaking of movies, Microsoft is actually very cautious about making TV shows and movies about their games. Given the track record of them tending to be terrible with few exceptions, you kinda can't blame them there. They don't want any negative reception affecting the market value of their games, and honestly, I wouldn't trust Hollywood as far as I could throw them either. They've got a pretty long-standing history that's still ongoing of flipping original creators the bird, like with Avatar: The Last Airbender, and doing whatever they want with the IP. This almost always blows up in their face, of course. It's not always terrible, mind you. I actually thought the first Silent Hill movie was good in its own way, for example, but mostly it turns out terribly. These writers and directors tend to make what they want, not what the fans or even movie-going audiences in general want. Take-Two apparently feels the same way, at least when it comes to GTA. They've got their own problems after all, they don't need Hollywood to pile onto it. And so the Google Stadia has yet another nail in its coffin, at least as a physical device. It seems the games from it can now be streamed on Xbox systems. Well, not specifically just it, but it got an update to the Edge browser found on PC. You know, aka Internet Explorer 2.0, that they didn't want to call that because it built up a bad reputation. Either way, this not only allows streaming of Stadia with mouse and keyboard support, but apparently has Discord support too. No microphone support, but you know, better than nothing. I just find it funny that there's now even less of a reason to get Stadia hardware. Time will tell if Google continues to support the software end, but given their track record of abandoning projects, we'll just have to see. And so the Steam Deck is already being hacked to do things it was never meant to do. For this news story specifically, it's being used to play VR games via a headset. Given the kind of hardware VR typically demands, I wouldn't expect it to perform miracles, but it's still interesting to hear about. In a roundabout way, it's sort of like a very modern version of the Virtual Boy, except obviously not official and hopefully nowhere near as eye-destroying. Maybe you could even use it to play Resident Evil 4 VR and experience the pleasure of a lack of ballistics jokes. It's always interesting to see homebrew and self-hacks down to hardware to make it run things it was never intended to run, I'd say. We'll have to see what comes of it though, and the Steam Deck is still a pretty impressive piece of tech in and of itself. In other news, Fall Guys has won a Guinness World Record. Believe it or not, it wasn't in the most amount of vertical feet descended in a video game, Just Cause and others would probably give it a run for its money there. No, Fall Guys has set a record for most downloaded game on PS Plus. For those not in the know, that's Sony's little service where you can get free games here and there for a subscription fee. Fall Guys happens to be among them, and it seems to be the most downloaded on that service. I can sort of understand why. It's a simple little party game that's included in the service, probably appeals to a wide number of people. It's always so fascinating seeing little games like this get recognition by things like Guinness. And so Nintendo France decided to post a pretty interesting tweet on their Twitter before removing it. The screenshot in question is Zero Suit Samus in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate crawling forward with Solid Snake tailing behind her. It's not hard to imagine how this looks, but the Twitter account decided to be extra cheeky, pun not intended, and make the eyes emoji. It's since been removed, hard to say if they just took it out on their own or if some kind of heat forced them into it. I hate to go there, but I feel like if it was reversed and Samus was checking out Snake, it probably wouldn't have gotten deleted. Surprisingly though, there doesn't appear to be any backlash to the tweet, at least none that's visible. Guess their superiors just thought it was too cheeky to rear out on the webs. And speaking of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, there are a few new additions. Sora from Kingdom Hearts as a fighter is a big one, but personally I'm more interested in the Doomslayer. That's right, the arm blade wielding maniac has finally appeared in a Super Smash Bros. Game, as a Mii costume. Yep, he's not a fully fledged fighter like I'm sure many of us were hoping for. Instead, he's basically a skin on the Mii fighter character. Well, at least he gets to keep his energy pistol, and it's still a lot better than nothing. In some form, Doom has infiltrated Super Smash Bros. Maybe in the future it'll lead to something more substantial, or even something in the classic Doom territory, but it's still pretty cool. And as always, from the page of Games Radar, it's time for the latest batch of release dates fresh out of the oven. The 8th starts out with a knockout home fitness for Switch, Lego Marvel Superheroes on Switch, and Tetris Effect Connected for the Switch. The 8th must be the day of the Switch because it's also the release of the OLED Switch and most importantly, Metroid Dread for Switch. The 11th just has Book of Travels for PC. The 12th has Back for Blood for PC, PlayStation, and Xbox, Disco Elysium, the Final Cut for Xbox and Switch, and Ori the Collection for Switch. The 14th begins with a Little Golf Journey for PC and Switch, Despot's Game for PC, and Godstrike for PS4 and X1. This is followed up with Jackbox Party Pack 8 for all major platforms, Ruin Raiders for PC, and Sphere Flying Cities for PC. The 15th starts out with Crisis Remastered Trilogy for PC, PlayStation, and Xbox, as well as Demon Slayer The Hikonami Chronicles, also for PC, PlayStation, and Xbox. Following up is The Good Life for the Old Band of Four and Story of Seasons Friends of Mineral Town for PS4 and X1. The 19th starts with Dying Light Platinum Edition for Switch, Into the Pit for X1 and PC, and War Mongrels for PC. This is followed up with YouTuber's Life 2 for the Old Band of Four. The 20th has Healing Spree for PC and Jars for PC and Switch. Finally, the 21st has the Ballistic Free Resident Evil 4 VR for Oculus, Sands of Aura for PC, and Tandem A Tale of Shadows for the Old Band of Four. This week's epic freebie until next Thursday is PC Building Simulator. It really is perfect if you're like me and can't really afford the latest PC hardware or RTX at all really and want to blissfully imagine of what could be. And as always, that rounds out this news week. I hope you enjoyed and were well enough informed. As always, I Let's Play every single day, 10 a.m. and 2 p.m, live stream Mondays and Fridays unless otherwise specified at 4:30 p.m, and I swap between game reviews and game news videos Thursdays to 6 p.m. This is actually the month of thrills where I do exclusively horror games in my Let's Plays. That's Eastern Standard Time, but you can always subscribe and Hockey Mask Machete / that bell icon if you don't want to worry about keeping track of time zones. A like is always appreciated for those algorithms, but I just hope you genuinely liked it, and that is it for now. Thank you so much for tuning in with me. Spread this video around like Freddy Krueger's influence in the dream world, and I'll see you next time. Peace out, have a good one, and I will see you next week.